Welcome to 21st Sports recap and reaction for Game 2 of the NLCS between the Chicago Cubs and the New York Mets. Played October 18th, 2015. We're going to go over every at-bat and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. So on the mound for the Mets, Yoenis Syndergaard, also known as Thor. And on the mound for the Cubs, Jake Arrieta. And Arrieta had that historical performance in the wild card game of this postseason. But as far as the Mets were concerned, that was history. But here in the top of the first, Syndergaard would get Fowler to ground out. He struck out Schwarber. Bryant reached on a single, and then Rizzo struck out. So that did it for the top of the first. Now in the bottom of the first, Curtis Granderson with the leadoff single. David Wright then doubled, and that brought in Granderson. So it was 1-0 New York over Chicago. And then the hottest hitter in all of baseball right now, Daniel Murphy, stepped into the batter's box, and he went deep for the fifth time in this postseason with a 2-run shot here in the bottom of the first, just knocking it over that right field wall, right over the StubHub sign, 352 feet. And it was a 2-run shot that made it 3-0 as he drove in David Wright. So 3-0 Mets. And now the next three batters would go down as Arrieta would calm down, get Cespedes to fly out or foul out to first. And then Duda and d'Arnaud struck out. But not after the Mets had put 3 runs on the scoreboard here in the bottom of the first. So now on the top of the second, Syndergaard would sit down the side in order. He's got Castro to ground out, Coghlan flew out, and then Montero struck out. Now in the bottom of the second, Arrieta would sit down the side in order as well, bookending the half an inning with strikeouts as he struck out Conforto, Flores lined out, and then Syndergaard struck out. So that did it for the second. Now on to the top of the third. Syndergaard would strike out Baez and Arrieta. He then walked Fowler and then struck out Schwarber as he had 3 strikeouts in this inning. So now in the bottom of the third, Curtis Granderson would draw a walk as he reached base for the second time in this game, as he's been coming up big time for the Mets throughout this postseason. Wright would strike out, but Granderson stole second. So now Murphy would draw an intentional walk with having the stolen base by Granderson, so they would have a force out, but Granderson had other ideas as he stole third, and so now you had runners on the corners. So there goes your force out at third anyway. Still had the force out at second, but Cespedes at the plate, and Yoenis Cespedes hits a single that drives in Granderson, and it was now 4-0 Mets over the Cubs. Duda would pop out, and d'Arnaud would ground out, and that would do it for the third, but not after the Mets had put one more run on the scoreboard, as it was now 4-0 heading into the top of the fourth. Syndergaard would set down the side in order. And now we are on, and he did it by getting Bryant to fly out, Rizzo popped out, and Castro grounded out. So on to the bottom of the fourth, Arrieta would set down the side in order as well. Conforto grounded out, Flores struck out, and Syndergaard grounded out. So now at the top of the fifth, Syndergaard would set down the side in order for the second straight inning, the third time in this game, as he got Coghlan to ground out, Montero struck out, and Baez struck out as well. So now to the bottom of the fifth, Arrieta would set down the side in order, getting Granderson to ground out, as Granderson was retired for the first time in this game, not having reached base, and now his third plate appearance. Wright would strike out, and Murphy struck out. So she's striking out the hot-batted Murphy, and we were on to the top of the sixth. So Syndergaard still on the mound for New York, and Listella would pinch hit for Arrieta, as he would be done for the day. Now Listella would fly out. Fowler then hit a single. Fowler would end up reaching second on a wild pitch by Syndergaard, but then Schwarber struck out. And now Chris Bryant in the box, and he hit an RBI double driving in Fowler, and that put the first run on the scoreboard for Chicago as they cut the Mets lead to 3 with the score 4-1 New York over Chicago. So now Neese would come in to relieve Syndergaard as he would be done for the night. And Neese would strike out Rizzo. It was mainly a matchup thing, lefty versus lefty. And Neese has kind of owned Rizzo He's batting just over 100 against Nice. He gets him to strike out here, but not after the Cubs had added 1 run to the scoreboard in the top of the 6th. So 4-1 headed to the bottom of the 6th. Travis Wood now on the mound for the Cubs as he relieved Arrieta, who had been pinch hit for in the top half of the inning. And Listella would be at second base, and they'd move Castro over to short. And so now Wood would set down the side in order as he got Cespedes to fly out. He struck out Duda, and Darno flew out. So now on to the top of the 7th. Reed would come in to relieve Nice for New York. Addison Reed on the mound, and he would set down the side in order as he got Castro to line out. Coughlin popped out, and Montero flew out a fly as he fouled out into the catcher. So now 7th inning stretch and on to the bottom of the 7th. Travis Wood would strike out Conforto and Flores, and then Lagares would pinch hit for Reed, and he would strike out as well as Travis Wood strikes out the side in order. And we're on to the top of the 8th. So Tyler Clippard on the mound now for New York in relief of Reed. Lagares would move to center, Cespedes to left, and Denorfia would pinch hit for Wood. So Wood would be done for the night, and Denorfia would pop out. Listella then grounded out. Dexter Fowler then reached on a single, and then Schwarber flew out. So that would do it for the top of the 8th. Now on to the bottom of the 8th. Clayton Richard in relief of Wood, who had been pinch hit for in the top half of the inning. And you got Granderson to ground out, Wright lined out, and then Daniel Murphy hit a single. And so now Strope would come in to relieve Richard, and Cespedes would fly out, and that would do it for the 8th inning. So now on to the top of the 9th. Jeurys Familia on the mound for New York as he came in to close this one out in relief of Clippard, just 3 outs away from finishing this game off and picking up the save for New York as they would go up 2-0 in the series with a win. And so Bryant led off. He flew out. Now Rizzo would reach on an infield single. And so now you had a runner on first, 1 out for Castro. And the batter in the box would actually represent the potential tying run. But first they would need to get another guy on base for that to happen. And Castro grounded out. And so Rizzo was out at second, Castro at first. 2 outs for Coughlin, and he would ground out. And that would do it for the Cubs as Familia picks up the save, allowing just his 2nd hit in this postseason. So Familia with the save. The Mets win 4-1. They're up 2-0 in this series here in the NLCS. Of course, they're going to be going to Chicago for 3 straight games. So this series is just beginning. It's not over by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, 2-0 is a deep hole. It's a big lead for the Mets in this series. But we've already seen this postseason that the Blue Jays over in the American League in the Division Series were down 2-0 and came back to win 3 straight. So it's still anyone's series, but a huge win for the Mets to win both games at home as they keep home field advantage still in their corner. And this series is guaranteed to make it back to New York unless the Mets win it in Chicago. So they can't lose the series in Chicago. They would get back to New York for Game 6, even if the Cubs won all the games in Chicago. So if the trend continues of the home team winning it, and that's the thing where we'll see what happens once they get to Chi-Town. But in these 2 games, the Mets pretty dominant from a pitching standpoint, that's for sure. Both teams only had 5 hits, and all 5 hits for each of these teams came in the top half of the order. For the Mets, their top 4 hitters, Granderson, Wright, Murphy, and Cespedes, combined for all 5 hits and all 4 RBIs in this game for New York. And for Chicago, their 1, 3, and 4 hitters had all of their hits as everybody else was 0 for. As Fowler was 2 for 3, Bryant 2 for 4, and Rizzo 1 for 4. As I was saying over on the other side with New York, it was Granderson 1 for 3, Wright 1 for 4, Murphy 2 for 3, and Cespedes 1 for 4. They said all the production coming up on the top of the lineup on both sides is the pitchers were just shutting down the 5 through 9 hitters. Of course, in that 9 spot, it's going to be the pitcher unless he's pinch hit for, but In this game, Syndergaard gets the win, allowing just 1 earned run off of 3 hits in 5 2/3 innings, while striking out 9, walking just 1. And Neese pitched 1/3 of an inning, and he had a strikeout, and that was striking out Rizzo as he came in that spot relief, lefty versus lefty there in the 6th inning. And then Reed in the 7th pitched 1 inning, allowing no hits, no earned runs. Clippard in the 8th, allowing 1 hit, no earned runs. And then Familia coming in to finish this one out, close it out in the 9th, picking up the save, allowing just his 2nd hit of the postseason as he allowed 1 hit, no earned runs. Said he gets the save as he's been pretty unhittable in this postseason. No one's scored off of him, that's for sure. But then Arrieta, he gets the loss, 4 earned runs off of 4 hits in 5 innings, 8 strikeouts, 2 walks. He did allow that 2-run shot to Murphy in the 1st inning. Then Wood, he pitched 2 innings of relief, no hits, no earned runs with 4 strikeouts. Richard 2/3 of an inning, 1 hit, no earned runs. And then Strope 1/3 of an inning, no hits, no earned runs. But they got on him early. The Mets did. They got on Arrieta early. That 1st inning there, Granderson reaches base right with that double. Then the 2-run shot by Murphy, who was just red hot, to say the least. I mean, the energy coming off of his bat could light the universe. But Cespedes with that infield single also in the 3rd, adding another run. I said that first thing they got on him, and that would end up being the difference in the game, is those 3 runs. And Arrieta, he pitched pretty good for the next 4 innings before leaving the game. But Syndergaard was just on fire. I said he didn't let up anything until the 6th inning there, letting up that 1 run. But other than that, he was pitching 5 shutout innings up until that 6th when Brian got that double that drove in Fowler. But a really excellent performance by him on the mound. And he said the Mets, they figure out ways to score. And of course, when you got Murphy hitting those home runs, that's his 5th home run of this postseason. The guy is playing like every year you see one guy that really has a huge performance. He's right now the MVP of this whole postseason. So we'll see if that continues as they go to the Windy City for the next 3 games. It'll be interesting to see what happens there in Chicago, as the Mets look pretty unstoppable at the moment, especially the way their pitching staff has been handling the Cubs lineup with their starting pitching and with their bullpen. And once Familia gets in the game, it's pretty much over, as he's been lights out here in this postseason. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and had a great weekend and enjoyed all the sports.